Bro, what if the craziest conspiracy clips aren't crazy at all? Come on, man. Today, we're looking at secret tech, Iran war, rabbit hole, and the Lincoln assassination conspiracy. This is Brosky. Let's go!
Disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
I'm Iranian, and the Stargate 10 in Abadan, Iran is highly guarded by Annunaki forces, but also psychically guarded. Just like I've been teaching in all my prior videos, in the Middle East, from Israel all the way to Iran, is ancient Anunnaki territory connected to Mesopotamian, Sumerian, and the 8 priest kings before the Great Deluge, or what the Bible says, the flood. The 8 priest kings were Anunnaki human hybrids. And these 8 priest kings ruled for over 250,000 years because they had the DNA of ancient Anunnaki, which allowed them to rule and live thousands of years. And right now, the Anunnaki are behind what's going on in the world right now. The war between Israel, United States, and Iran, behind the scenes, is all ancient Anunnaki activity. There's a very heavy energy and influence of the Anunnaki behind the United States government, military-industrial complex, and the tech companies. And it's connected to Israel and their interests. Everybody should know right now that the Zionists are in control. They want to expand their territory from Israel to Iran, and they're doing it by force. And every time you experience an energy of force, there's always a nefarious agenda, a nefarious plan, and a nefarious intentions behind it. The Anunnaki are here, and they want to take back control of their old territory. And that was part of the Iraq War, where they wanted to go and get the ancient Anunnaki artifacts that was underground, and they made up a cover story. Once Israel is expanded, it's going to be the center for their master plan, which is turning Earth into AI. The war going on right now on top Earth between the United States, Israel, and Iran is mostly a distraction because of what's going on underground. There's a hidden war going on underground because under the entire region of the Middle East, it's honeycombed with tunnels, ancient Anunnaki tunnels. And not only are they master tunnelers, they've also built enormous, gigantic facilities underground. And they use these facilities to store their weapons and their technology. And there are operations going on underground in that region that are highly classified. And what's going to happen is we're going to start seeing more earthquakes because of what they're doing underground. And Stargate 10 in Abadan, Iran is part of that. And there's definitely a war going on that nobody can see about who is going to control that Stargate. Stargate 10, 2026, 2 plus 2 plus 6 is 10. Not all Anunnaki are nefarious psychopaths. There are some that have a slightly open heart chakra and they want to help and assist humanity. But again, like I've been saying, never take sides in the games of the Anunnaki because they are master manipulators. They are master illusionists. They will give you the illusion of good versus bad, and the people are stuck in the middle and they suffer the most.
By Anunnaki, you mean the fallen angels? Hey, but let me know how you feel about this in the comment.
Here that the CIA has admitted that the way they found the pilot was because of his heart rate.
Ghost murmur. That's the name of the tech.
We gotta look into this. Like, this is science fiction.
Yeah, it's wild.
This is full Minority Report.
It's crazy.
Science fiction level technology.
It's AI.
They can find a guy's heart rate.
So what I read is that AI is taking out the noise, and from far away, he could
40 miles, I think.
40 miles. They find this guy's heartbeat. He's hiding in some kind of crevice, and then they're able to go and extract him.
But they can't find the missing children? Oh, by the way, if the CIA released that information, the information is already at least 20 years old.
Let's look at the Lincoln lies. It starts off with the Pisces and the survival of Louis XVII. He was the son of Marie Antoinette and was the heir to the throne of France. After the French Revolution, he was smuggled to the Americas. The Springs family, formerly Springsteen family, was the front family for the Pisces. A.A. Springsteen had a son with Nancy Hanks named Abraham in Lincolnton, North Carolina. The Pisces had massive wealth and power in the South, using many buffer families to mask their wealth. The list of the family holdings is long. The family was one of the main gold and silver holders in the banking system. Abraham was their Manchurian candidate that started his career in Vandalia, Illinois, the 14th colony. It was named after Queen Charlotte the Vandal. and Charlotte was swarthy or mulatto, a light-skinned so-called black person. Europe was predominantly brown until the 1700s. And Pysor is a variant of the German
until the 1700s?
Sure. It's important to remember that Germany and France come from the same swarthy stock. Charlemagne, or the Carolingians, birthed the Bourbons and the Germans. Some of these dark Europeans can be found in the Melungian stock, of which Abraham comes from. It doesn't take many generations from mulatto to octoroon to hide the darkness. Look. And Lincoln called himself black or dark, as well as the very descriptive author Walt Whitman. Lincoln's assassin was from a super famous acting family with Masonic ties, among other secret societies. They claim Booth was a Confederate, but he was engaged to a staunch Unionist daughter. He came to Lincoln's inauguration and stood in the friends and family section. Look. One of the Booths saved Lincoln's son, and Lincoln went to see them perform many times. They only performed all together once, performing Julius Caesar, which Booth recited after allegedly killing Lincoln, which is now Virginia's state motto. Then Booth hires a freedman to help him escape. There were more freedmen in the South than the North, obviously. There were 5 slave states in the North, and New Jersey and Delaware were the last to end slavery. Northern freedmen were thrown in insane asylums en masse. Then their children were stolen and thrown in asylums, and the kids were thrown on orphan trains to be child labor slaves. Lincoln never ended slavery, and the 13th Amendment reinvented it. Lincoln issued the first fiat currency, income tax, and forced people to war. It's the same thing the Rothschilds would have done. It's a moot point. Lincoln's funeral was profitable. It was all business. He was paraded around like George Floyd. Then he was buried in a mound like an aboriginal. Then somebody tries to take his body, supposedly. Supposedly a mobster counterfeiter, more banking conspiracy. And they were working with a federal agent. The story is a joke. They then move his body and don't tell anyone. Is he even there now? What type of giants is he talking about? Like Tuscaloosa? Or the ones that were destroyed and stolen? Lincoln's alleged only son to survive was saved by John Wilkes Booth's brother, and the son sent Lincoln's wife to an asylum. And then the bloodline becomes extinct. So I don't believe much of the story. There's too many holes. Booth didn't want to kill him. Sounds like a patsy at best. And Montreal was one of the headquarters for the South. The war was already over when he supposedly got shot. It all looks like theater. They're all actors. The theater of war.
A clay tablet proved the Tower of Babel existed. Then it vanished. 1876. The tablet described a 7-tiered tower in Babylon by name. It was catalogued, then removed from institutional records that same year. No theft report, no transfer document, no photograph. In 1899, German archaeologist Robert Koldewey excavated Babylon and found a square foundation, 2 to 95 feet per side, exactly matching Annunaki, the Sumerian name for the structure. King Nebuchadnezzar II left a stone stele showing himself beside the completed tower. The inscription reads, "I made it the wonder of the people of the world." The tablet disappeared during the exact period when 3 European powers were quietly competing to control Mesopotamian excavation rights. Someone decided what that tablet proved was inconvenient. What did it say that the stele did not?
When you look at the U.S. government's plans, the Department of Commerce report from 2002 about enhancing human performance. 2 years before that, NASA gathered all of the tech giants that were involved, the military contracts, Northrop Grumman, those types that NASA typically deals with. In another conference in Orlando, their high priest of technology, Nathan Bushnell is his name, gave a presentation where he laid out human history going back 10,000 years and said 10,000 years ago, we were hunter-gatherers. Then came the first industrial revolution in England in the 1800s. Then the second industrial revolution in the early 1900s. The third industrial revolution in the 1950s with the transistor, with the computer, with the laser, those types of inventions. And then he said, now we're in the fourth industrial revolution. That will be temporary. From the fourth industrial revolution, we are going to go, in his term, virtual. And then he stated, here's why. Climate change. There's too many of us. We need 2 planets the size of Earth to support and sustain all of humanity at the level that humanity wishes to live at. We need a backup planet. This is NASA's head of technology spelling this out.
You know, why would NASA be involved in population control?
What we must fill in every time we see the Ark of the Covenant is the realization that it can produce a luminous pillar or light that is a portal through which the righteous, the fully realized humans, that's what the word righteous actually means, could pass through to the heavenly Scion. I did locate that heavenly Scion in the center of the Milky Way galaxy, just as a footnote. The pillar is incandescent. It's multicolored pillar at the center of Eden, another name for Scion, upon which souls are capable of ascending through an opening in heaven. This is a conduit where righteous humans are transfigured into angels. The book is told that as Jesus resurrected, an angel of the Lord descended from heaven, from a higher layer of creation, another layer of the simulation, if you will, and rolled away the stone and sat upon it, and his appearance was like lightning, and his clothing was as white as snow. That is exactly the same as the transfiguration the ancient Egyptians insisted was connected with the Society of Starwalkers and the children or sons of Ptah. And it's in perfect alignment here with the Christian teaching that's saying Jesus is one of these Starwalkers.
You must be born again. No one can enter the kingdom of heaven except through Christ.
Some aliens are so easily amused by humans. The other night, I had an alien visitation in the dream state, which is one of the many ways that they will connect with you, and it's very easy for them to connect with you in the dream state. I got on like this elevator with a couple other people, and the elevator started spinning really, really fast, and all of us in the elevator were like, what is going on? We're like holding on for dear life. Eventually the elevator stops, I get off the elevator, I make a left, and I'm in like this apartment building. So I just make my way into somebody's apartment and I open the door. There are like 7 to 8 very human looking ETs. They had different colored skin, they had different colored hair, different hair texture. And when I walked into the apartment, every single one of them turned and looked at me and they were like, they were not expecting me to come through the door. And I specifically remember that there was this one little alien. He seemed younger, like he seemed like a younger boy, and he had 3 eyes. I wonder if his name was Alice. I was like the most surprised to see me. But aside from my presence being quite a surprise for them,
my name is Alice.
Something that they thought was even more surprising was my hair tinsel. They thought that my hair tinsel was so freaking cool, and they came up to me. I believe that they asked for permission. I don't really remember, but they did start like touching my hair, and they thought hair tinsel was really cool. They were super amused by it. But then I'm leaving the apartment, and this one alien comes up to me, and she puts like this black device around my left ear. In the dream, my ear is tuning into different frequencies and different pitches, and it doesn't hurt. I know that it was something that was meant to help me. And then I woke up. And the next day in my waking life, my ear actually did feel a little bit more plugged. And so I thought that was really odd. But I also thought, wait a second, maybe they did some sort of like upgrade. If you take anything from this story at all, know that aliens are just as amused by the little things that us humans do as us humans would be to find out what they do in their alien culture. Like I'm assuming that they don't have hair tinsels. Have you guys been connecting with ETs more often? Have they been visiting you in the dream state? And follow for more alien content.
You're aliens, Betty.
People remember the Knights Templar as crusaders, warriors in white cloaks marked by a red cross. But very few remember how it all started, not with armies, but with 9 men. 9 knights who swore an oath in 1119 to protect pilgrims on their way to Jerusalem. At least that's the official version. What makes them interesting isn't what they built, it's what they were looking for. Those first 9 didn't defend roads for almost a decade. They lived beneath the Temple Mount, digging, searching, mapping tunnels under the ruins of Solomon's temple. And then history goes quiet. When they re-emerged, everything changed. Suddenly, they had Pope's blessing, land across Europe, and access to knowledge that reshaped finance, architecture, and even early science. 9 obscure knights had become the most powerful order in Christendom, almost overnight. Some chronicles claim that they found relics. Others say they discovered texts, fragments of ancient wisdom that predated even Mosaic law. In esoteric circles, it said that they uncovered blueprints of sacred geometry, the principles later mirrored in Gothic cathedrals and in the rituals of later secret brotherhoods. The number itself, 9, is no accident. In Kabbalah, 9 is the final gate before divinity. In alchemy, is transformation before perfection. To the Templars, it may have been symbolized the completion of man before merging with the divine light. When the order was dissolved in 1312, the church burned their leaders, but not their ideas. Those scattered fragments became the roots of Western mysticism, coded architecture, and occult symbolism that still hides in plain sight. Maybe that's why people still whisper about Templars. Not because they vanished, but because they might have succeeded.
Assassin's Creed. They're warrior, by the way. Boom. Nah, man, we ain't ready. We're not ready. Let's go! Let's go!
One of the things that the Order also discovered when it first went to Egypt is that there were these massive tunnel networks that existed between Giza and Saqqara. Saqqara is where the step pyramid of Zoser is. That word Saqqara is actually where we get the word sacred from. But there are tunnels that stretch that whole way, large tunnels. That area, that underground in the ancient Egyptian language was known as Ras Tau, which just meant underworld. When the Templars discovered this, they brought that knowledge back with them, and they transliterated the Egyptian Ras Tau into the Latin language they're familiar with. So Ras became rose, and Tau became cross.
Oh my goodness.
So they adopted the symbol of the rose cross to talk about the secret underground area of Egypt.
So much is hidden, folks.
I didn't expect to start channeling aliens. Naturally, what's been happening to me is the more I've been talking about my alien experiences or teaching about aliens, reptilians, whatever, the more they're attracted to me, which is a law of attraction type thing. And now they're beginning to literally speak through me, like Bashar style. I have to say, it is kind of cool. It is kind of cool because I am learning a fuck ton about a lot of things. Because I have this ET wisdom, which, by the way, you can channel ET2s if you want. It just has to be built through your intuition, through self-belief, through all this fun stuff. But lately, I was channeling information about the hamburger meat at McDonald's and about the Lucy Leppy case. Now, I am, of course, working with a spiritual mentor throughout all of this who's extremely practiced in channeling. If you are interested in getting a channeled message from the ETs, from your ET guides, from the Arcturians or Lyrans, those are the races that I primarily work with, then check out my services in my Pensite link in bio because these ETs are ready to communicate with humanity. Let me tell you, they are stoked and I am too. Oh my gosh. Okay. And follow for more information about aliens.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass. You're channeling demonic spirits.
In 1513, a Turkish admiral drew a map showing a southern continent. Antarctica wasn't officially discovered for another 307 years. In 1531, Oronteus Phineas drew it again, with rivers, mountains, coastlines, no ice. In 1737, Philippe Boitier mapped it as two landmasses split by a central channel. We confirmed that shape using radar in 1958, under 2 miles of ice. In 1947, the US Navy launched the largest Antarctic expedition in history, 4,700 men, 13 ships. They left months early, no explanation given. Admiral Byrd said on film, "There is an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being, beyond the pole." In 1959, 12 nations signed a treaty locking Antarctica away. 3 maps, 1 expedition, 1 treaty. Nobody asks who drew those coastlines.
Get ready because the masks are coming off soon. Princess Diana knew. She knew exactly what was going on. Princess Diana spoke the truth about the royals. That's why they organized the car crash in Paris. She literally said they are not human. A little bit later, And she also said they're planning an accident in my car so Charles can marry again. She knew they were not human, and she literally said they're going to kill me, and yet the whole world did nothing. And you know what happened? She died. And she was telling people back then that they weren't human. So imagine how they thought now. Like now people are waking up, but back then it's like, that shit was the craziest thing to hear. The truth is coming out, people.
The entire Saqqara complex is devoted to Ptah. And it is devoted to the singular ambition that he has for humanity, which is that we will be able to resurrect and ascend from this realm and join the higher beings, the Star Walkers, in the afterlife realm and navigate the afterlife realm, even journeying to other worlds. The pyramid texts themselves are the oldest religious texts on the planet. They date back to around 2400 BC. According to one of its interpreters, Faulkner, the pyramid text should be regarded as part of the Egyptian star religion. But more specifically, I believe that they're part of the ancient Egyptian star walker tradition. Because after these texts describe the king's purification, he goes into the sky.
So a lot of people are going to ask a question, how do these different traditions recognize each other? How do they know who's on their side and who's not? And I think that breaks down to signs of recognition, just like we have in our modern Templar order and within Freemasonry, correct?
Correct. Yeah, there were certain signs, there were certain handshakes that had been passed down from early times that these different Gnostic families and traditions had been holding on to. So when Hugh de Paynes and Godfrey de St. Omar had inherited these things, they went to Constantinople. They were able to exchange them with the Brothers of the East,
right,
which the Templars were said to be guarded.
Ancient Templars throwing up gang signs and handshakes to identify each others. Sounds familiar?
I haven't touched on martial arts in a while, so let's get into it, shall we? I've adored Bruce Lee for as long as I can remember, since I was a kid watching his
my man
films and feeling like there was something about him that didn't quite fit into the category of just an actor or a fighter. What most people don't realize is that Bruce Lee wasn't just training his body, he was obsessively studying consciousness, perception, and the idea of dissolving identity altogether. He used to write pages and pages about becoming no one, about removing form, removing structure, removing even the idea of
becoming no one. I like that.
Self, not as some poetic metaphor, no, but as a real state he was trying to live in. There is a lesser known side of him where he was deeply influenced by Taoist philosophy, but he didn't just read it, he tried to embody it to the point where his fighting style, Jeet Kune Do, was never meant to be a style at all. It was meant to be the absence of the style. And that's where it gets interesting, because when you remove the fixed patterns, rehearsed reactions, and even the sense of I am doing this, what you're left with is pure response without hesitation. Ooh. Some people later looked at that state and compared it to what in other traditions would be described as egoless awareness or even enlightenment. Not in a mystical glowing sense, no, but in a way someone moves without interference from thought. There are accounts of him speaking about moments where action happened before he even registered the decision to act, almost like the body was moving on its own without the delay of the mind stepping in. And if you look at that closely, it starts to blur the line between physical mastery and something far more internal. Not everyone would call that spiritual, no. But it's hard to ignore how close it gets to ideas that have existed for centuries in completely different traditions. And maybe that's why people still feel something when they watch him, not just skill, but a kind of presence that doesn't fully belong to the surface level of what he was doing. Do you think he trained his body? Or he was actually training his consciousness?
Jeff? I say both. Bruce Lee is a legend. He was truly special.
Jeffrey Epstein was obsessed with the color blue, and it has to mean something. So I talked about this in one of my longer videos, but if you take a look at Epstein's properties, the color blue is more prevalent than almost any other color. And it's used in such strange ways. Like, for example, blue carpet like this. I mean, when do you see something like this? You've got blue couches. You've got blue artwork. You've even got blue on the curtains. Obviously, this room is a blue lover's fever dream. You've got blue on the floor, blue on the cushioning. You've got an actual blue chandelier. You've got blue on the curtains, blue on the patterning painted on the walls. Now, entering one of the hallways in the residence, blue curtains once again. And here's another look at that blue room. You've even got a blue table and a blue lamp. Epstein's kind of main office room. I think this is like a bluish pillar to the left. Blue frame, and then the ceiling is painted this dark kind of royal blue. Here's a better look at that ceiling. I mean, you can't make this up. This was in Epstein's house. A literal blue sculpture. Like, I don't want to say it, but a sculpture. Moving on to the bathroom, you've even got blue towels. You've even got entire rooms that were painted blue, like this room. Blue on the bed. I mean, there's blue on the carpet again here. Here's another hallway with what appear to be blue highlights on the walls, and then that very distinct blue carpet. And all the way to the upstairs of the home. I mean, the blue stairs, it's just crazy. And it opens up at the top to blue walls. To me, this is just so unbelievably strange. I mean, there's even like a blue, what is this, an electrical cord that something's hanging on? I couldn't really tell you.
There's a pole, man.
So what is up with this fascination? Why the color blue? I've asked a lot of people, and I have looked into this myself many times, and I haven't been able to find a definitive answer or even a potential answer as to why he would be obsessed with this color and be placing it everywhere. But if you have any ideas or suggestions, please let me know, because this is just something that I've noticed looking at thousands and thousands and thousands of photos relating to this case. And it's really, really bizarre to me. He is literally obsessed with the color blue. Go look at the photos from his other properties. That obsession is still apparent at those other properties as well. I mean, all the way to the temple on Epstein Island. But yeah, let me know your thoughts below and follow along for more.
Yo, he had Clinton in a blue dress. Oh, by the way, if you're first time here and you like my video, don't hesitate to subscribe, all right? And click the bell button too. Let's go.
What's kind of currently going on with the plans with, Greenland. I know you've said a lot already, but is there anything else that we haven't covered about Greenland that you want to share?
Yeah, the Golden Dome. So people say, what the heck's the Golden Dome? So the firmament around the planet right now has been almost taken out. That was monitored and activated by the Annunaki a long, long time ago, with like 1,000-year technology in advance, where it was putting a frequency right around the planet, almost like a plasma umbrella, which was harmonious, which was keeping us stuck within this. And that's why, there are holes in it. And of course, you can get rockets out, but I think a lot of the moon landings and different things never happened. But the Golden Dome, so what you're being told, well, the Golden Dome, is envisioned in Donald Trump's strategic defense things as like a blueprint that extends far beyond just, people think it's just like tracking missiles. It's really not. It's a multi-dimensional shield that's going to contain us in it.
Okay, it's time to have the American corporation talk. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, when they established the Social Security system, when they established the birth certificate system, they securitized you. This means you are traded on the stock exchange. Think about it. Why is your name in all capital letters? Because you are a corporation. When you have a corporation, when you establish a corporation, it's in all caps. Your name on every documentation, it's in all caps. Let's keep going. So,
let's go.
How many numbers does your bank account have? 9. How many numbers does your Social Security have? 9. You are the bank. That means every time they trade you on the stock exchange.
Well, I live in Indonesia. I don't have Social Security here, but we have ID number.
Globally, internationally, they are making money on you. You're a millionaire and you don't even know it. Don't know what this means? Let's keep going. This means that you are the bank. You have a trust tied to that bank number. This is because everything that you pay for is already paid for technically by the government, but you're assuming the liability. Like when you get a car, you sign off. I mean, even think about it. When you go to dinner and you say, check, please, you're signing a check. It's not valid until you sign it. Your signature is the money. Now, the flesh and blood you is assuming the liability for your straw man, which is the person, your corporation, you're taking liability for. Even though, legally, all debts are to be paid by the U.S. government.
America is modern Babylon. Hey, but you know who signed my check? Start with the J.
We now have proof that evidence went missing in the Epstein investigation. I mean, this is an absolute bombshell dropping. Read this. Materials from the search warrant executed by the Palm Beach Police Department in 2005 confirm that computers appeared to have been removed from Epstein's Palm Beach residence prior to the search. So here's the EFTA number for this document. This comes from a memorandum sent to the U.S. attorney at the time, December 19th, 2019, talking about an investigation into potential co-conspirators of Jeffrey Epstein. So let's read what this document has to say. In 2005, Epstein directed blank to collect all contact books and computers from his Palm Beach residence and provide them to a man who met blank at the residence. Blank was present for the conversation in which Epstein gave blank these instructions. Sometime later in 2005, blank also asked blank to take the contact books from the Virgin Islands and shred them. Epstein was under investigation at the time. At some point when she was in Miami with Epstein and blank was directed to drive to Palm Beach to meet someone there. Both blank and Epstein told blank to drive to Palm Beach. Blank did not understand what was going on, but she recalls Epstein saying something happened with a visa. Epstein and blank directed blank to gather computers and directories from the Palm Beach house and give them to a man who would meet blank there. Blank gave blank the phone number of the person blank was to meet in Palm Beach. Blank followed these instructions and gave the computers and directories from Palm Beach to a man who met her at Epstein's Palm Beach residence. After blank completed that task in Palm Beach, blank asked blank to gather the directories from Epstein's Virgin Islands residence and bring them back to New York. Blank reminded blank to check every building on Epstein's island for the directories. Blank followed the instruction and brought the directories to Maxwell's house in New York, where she gave them to blank. Blank then told blank to shred the directories in Maxwell's house. Blank also recalled an instance when Darren Indyke met with her and told her that if she ever needed help, she should not talk to the police. And then you can see this kind of note at the bottom saying that, yeah, it appears that stuff was removed from Epstein's Palm Beach mansion. Mainly the computers, directories, things that would have, I don't know, shown Epstein's clientele list, shown who he was interacting with, or even shown blackmail materials. The computers and all of those data storage devices would have had the blackmail material on them. So removing those computers and destroying those computers really meant destroying all the evidence. And I find this insane that nobody is talking about this. I hadn't even heard of this until this morning. And it should be noted that it says that this girl, I'm assuming she was a victim/survivor, she brought the computers and directories to a mysterious phantom man who met her at Epstein's Palm Beach residence who took those materials from her. But we don't know who that man is. We don't know his name or his identity. He's just a shadowy figure that we know eventually possessed Epstein's materials. I mean, this story is crazy.
Palm Beach Pete strikes again.
Have a look at this very interesting statue that's in Peru of what seems to be a reptilian humanoid. Now, interesting enough, there's many people like myself that know that these are the beings that are currently controlling this world. Soulless shapeshifters that are trying to enslave humanity. I know it sounds crazy, but just stick with me. I find it very interesting that these 7,000-year-old statues were uncovered in Iraq of what seems to be, again, these reptilian humanoids. These have been depicted throughout all of our ancient history, guys. And you know, when you start to dive down this rabbit hole and you start to observe, simply observe the people that are in power, the people that are in the front lines, you start to see some very interesting things. Some shape-shifting eyes, some lizard necks, just like that. Some very interesting things of the people that are in power. Soulless, shape-shifting, reptilians that don't give a shit about humanity. This is why humanity is in the state that it's in, because humans wouldn't do what these people are doing to other humans because we have a heart, we have a soul. Not these people. They don't. They just want power. Look at this. It's so obvious once you look into this stuff, guys. These are the beings that are poisoning us around every single corner, wearing masks, deceiving humanity, purposely keeping us in a lowered state of consciousness. It's these people. And this is what they do. They put this shit right in your face to tell you what's going on, who they are. And this will just go over most people's heads because they're stupid. But these are the people that are controlling us, that are poisoning us. And this is why we're always at war. And this is also why it's never been more important to take our physical health back from these Satanists. This is why I take talks daily every single day, which is clinically studied to boost free and total testosterone. With over 5,000 third-party reviews on Trustpilot, these are some of the most powerful and potent supplements on this earth. And I have some incredible lifetime discounts for you guys. So comment the word info and check your DMs. Peace and love.
You guys may have heard about William McCaslin, Monica Reza, and Carl Grillmeyer. Now, what do these people have in common? So we're going to break all this down and how all these weird instances are all connected. So we had her remote view into these situations. So there is a missing general named McCaslin, and he was ahead of the UFO research facility in Wright-Patterson. He went missing last month. People are alluding to that he had information about disclosure, UFOs, and whatnot. Then we have Monica Reza. A lot of people don't know about her. She actually went missing last summer during hiking. Now, she's a rocket scientist. Carl Grillmeyer, he's dead, and he got shot on his porch randomly. They're saying it was a carjacking. And the connection between all these three people, Grillmeyer, he's an astrophysicist at Caltech. Now, there is a research facility at Caltech called IPAC that he was one of the lead researchers there. Now, right down the street, there is another research lab, JPL. Guess who's the director of JPL? Who? Monica Reza. There's another connection. So with the missing general, he was the lead commander at another Air Force base. Guess who worked there at the same time he was there? Monica Reza. So all three of these people dealing with exoplanets, space travel, UFO disclosure, they all go missing. And then now what do we have the government doing now? They just booked a domain, aliens.gov.
Oh, also Carl Grillmeyer, I believed he worked on basically like space defense, like, stuff like meteors.
Yeah.
Meteors.
Elizabeth, what have you seen with all these people?
It's really interesting. So as a remote viewer, for me, it's very visual. Not every remote viewer is visual. Some have more like a sense or a sensation. And so it's really interesting because when I was taking a look at all of these like disappearances and these scientists, the first thing that came up is that it's actually a group of 5. We're talking about 3 right now. There's 2 others. So not only were they on the leading edge of discovery and information, but it was very clear that they were working with an alternate organization. A lot of people call them the white hats. You know how we have like the elites and the shadow government? We essentially have the other form of government, which are the good guys, and they have their own remote viewers, which is interesting. They have white hat hackers as well. They're very high tech. And this sort of good behind the scenes government organization has individuals embedded within military, within politics, even within sort of celebrity culture all over the world.
There have been coordinated online attacks against myself, Dylan Borland, David Grush, Lou Elizondo, Jeff Mixatelli. I think Alex escaped, but the point is it's systematic and it's ongoing to this day. We have identified the main players and found that they are active duty service members or reserve service members with active clearances doing this on their work time from work computers.
That's right.
And that this network of shit talkers is directly traced back to legacy program security, and that legacy program security is actively running disinformation operations and psychological operations against UAP whistleblowers, their friends, and their family. Worse than that, they are taking human intelligence methods and applying them to us in order to disrupt our lives and basically to drive us to either commit suicide or become so ostracized from our friends and family that we are no longer a threat. Specifically, they are sending Office of Special Investigations agents to people's families to break apart their families, to break apart marriages, to this day, to pull children away from their parents. And these are not the parents, these are not parents who are whistleblowers. They are people who have helped us.
When the angels start blowing their trumpets, it means the world is coming to an end. The trumpet's been blowing. You can't hear it? This world is just a stage. You can't hear the trumpets because it's part of the play. They're speaking about world peace now. So you mean to tell me the people that robbed the world, destroyed the world, took land, took oil, took gold, they want world peace? This video is about to get a little dark. and a little deep. Stay with me. The only reason why they're speaking about world peace, they don't want to destroy their stuff while trying to destroy us. They say only spiritual people and religion people can hear these angels blowing their 7 trumpets. Number 7. 7 controls everything. We have 7 natural music notes. 7-year peace treaty. 7 heavens, 7 chakras, 7 days of the week, 7 seals, 7 colors in the rainbow, 7 continents, 7 major parts in the brain. Anytime these people start speaking about world peace, we should start praying. We should start meditating. Talk to your ancestors. Do something. Because everything is about a grand deception. They lied to us again. They're the greatest liars on this planet. But it's only a lie if you believe them. The word believe is connected to belief. If you look at the word, is be lied to. They always lie. They want you to believe that the 7-year peace treaty never took place. It already started in 2019. People are sitting around waiting for the angels to blow their trumpets. It started when they locked the world down in 2019. 2019, 2026, that's 7 years. When Corona took place, they crowned their new king. The word Corona just means crown. The 7-year peace treaty is done. If you want to know more about these topics, these subjects, my ebook link is in my bio.
You know what? I feel like this planet hasn't been the same since 2019.
They took me to Egypt. It was like a virtual tour. Being inside a bubble, something clear, round. I could touch the walls, but I couldn't see it. And I was looking at the Sphinx and the pyramids and Hathor's temple and all these obelisks and stuff. And they were narrating what I was seeing. I started first getting images, not the information.
Were they narrating like a tour guide in a museum?
Yep.
So it wasn't like a message. It was just, this is Hathor's temple. This is.
Well, I didn't know what it was. I just saw it, right?
Right.
And so that caused me to get into deep research into Egypt. And I met Dr. Robert Gilbert that ran the Vesica Institute. He was sacred geometry is what he taught. Sadly, he passed away last year. But he made a lot of sense to what I was seeing. And so it's been a long journey trying to figure it out. I don't have the answers like everybody thinks. It's the more I learn, I don't know, right? It's just it's just so big, we can't imagine what is around us. But they took me up over the Midwest. I saw what I was crying in fear about. My wife recorded. One particular thing was I was saying in my sleep that they were showing me Bigfoot on Mars, of all things.
Oh, come on.
I'm not joking. I saw it in a dream or asleep. I was asleep. She recorded that. But I remember seeing it in the dream, landing in this bubble, and here comes walking up these creatures that were furry looking. So she's asking me questions, and I'm answering in my sleep.
You mentioned that you were shown Hathor's temple. I don't know if you know this, but she's the goddess of maternity and motherhood.
Right.
And according to ancient Egypt, she is the sky. She came before everything.
And Sophia.
Yes, which I think in Greek is wisdom.
Yeah.
And Hathor is depicted as a cow in ancient Egypt. And whenever she's depicted as a human, she always has horns.
Well, she told me that, because I asked who she was, and she said she had many names. That she was called Hathor in Egypt, and that resonated with me because the first thing it showed me was Egypt, right? And I saw the faces of Hathor carved in the temples, and it's
Many
like cow ears and
names.
so.
Yes.
And so immediately that resonated. But she said she had many names in many countries, many cultures, from Diana to Demeter to Hera to the white buffalo calf lady in the American Southwest.
In American Southwest.
Fallen angels.
West Hinduism, Buddhism, Lakshmi. Could it be Mary? Could it be?
Well, I suppose it could be, but in my research, I know that the word spirit, the definition of a spirit, nobody really understands that, but it's the wind, right? And the word Holy Spirit is the breath of God. Well, that most impactful thing to me was not only seeing and hearing, but the wind that pushed me over. The cow running over, I saw it, but the wind physically, it frightened me. It hit me so hard, you know what I mean? So here's this force that came at me, only to reveal itself as the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. So
there is no confusion in Jesus Christ. That's all I got to say. You know who he is.
Remember that? Do you remember the Miami Mall? I believe it was Bayside Mall, where there was like
hundreds and hundreds of police cars and all these children claiming that they were seeing some weird being walking around among them, way taller than they were. And this guy had a run-in with some kind of weird people and they demanded his phone, and he still ended up getting away with the recording, but the whole recording was all glitched out. You can see right behind me when these things pop up. It's crazy. It's obviously some demonic things going on. And then they told us that it was fireworks, and that's why there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of police cars. Because that completely makes sense, right? And this right here is actually what they freaking saw. There's another showing of them in a second, but I believe this video may be altered from the original video. And you remember also how TikTok was taking off all evidence of this ever happening. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's real or not. Fast forward to 2026, it's so funny because now the government's actively telling us that there are real aliens around here. So I don't know, maybe these nefarious beings in our government planned this whole experience for everybody. Also, do you remember what I just showed you last night about U.S. Forest Services actively concealing portals in our own forests? You can believe it's a bad dream if you want to. That doesn't change reality.
Like this whole thing about Jim Carrey and Shia LaBeouf, I've been talking about both of them for a long time. Okay? They are both creatures. Jim Carrey only ever exposed the Freemasons because he is the god of the Masons and he was creating conspiracy theories, and he wanted you to trust him. The worst creatures are the ones you trust, the ones who claim the name of Jesus, the ones who act like they expose evil because you trust them more than everyone else. This is the checkerboard, black and white checkerboard, is when you have a bad person, you can create a more bad person when he fights against the evil, you trust him. But what if that's a whole ploy just to get you to serve the beast? Kanye West is a Nephilim, dude. Like, when are we going to wake up? These people don't act like humans. These people are all out of their stinking minds. When have you ever seen them do anything that's humanly? It is always an act, a show. Dude, come on, guys.
Today deride the legends of the ancients.
Back of a turtle or something like that.
Legends of reptiles that emerge as one under land and sea are as a common figure in the ancient world. Every culture, Japanese, Mesoamerican, Norse, Indian, Mediterranean, Polynesian, Chinese, has an ancient story of a subterranean sea-dwelling serpent. If we examine these legends with the deep reservoir of data we can access today, the legends become histories interpreted with the hopes and dreams of each culture as they collectively experience the same phenomenon. Indigenous American legends describe a feathered serpent that goes by many names: Kakakan, Quetzalcoatl, Gutzamats. The first known depiction is on an Olmec statue, where the serpent is depicted as a snake with feathers and a beak. Many Aztec and Mayan pyramids are filled with exquisitely crafted sculptures and jewels made of green.
In Indonesia, we call it naga.
Greenstone and obsidian. Even high-status people, soldiers, children, all sacrificed to the serpent god. The serpent is associated with greenstones, a semi-precious stone that contains the mineral olivine. The thing about olivine is that it comes from the inner part of Earth, where rocks are made with less oxygen. The consistent dedication of greenstones to the serpent god implies it was the rock of the serpent. When the serpent moved, it left a path of olivine-rich rocks that had been dredged up from the inner layers of Earth. Ophiolites are huge blocks of lithosphere with several layers. The lowest layers contain olivine. So the serpent god moved earth and seas and brought chunks of lower earth to the surface. Olivine also metamorphosizes oxygen and carbon dioxide during the process, and as a result, the rock's serpentine forms along the path of the serpent. The word serpentine even means twisting like a snake. To show their love and honor, indigenous people made gifts with the most precious stones of the serpent, then dedicated those gifts in honor. They also dedicated black obsidian, the volcanic rock, implying a volcanic lightning connection to the mythology. Geoscientists love ophiolites and use them to prove their mechanical theory of plate tectonics. They claim the M-placed chunks of lithosphere are proof of a complex rotational system. You can't understand it. Just take their word for it. They swear Earth slabs play a mechanical game of musical chairs for unclear reasons and no benefits. Indigenous stories, they say, are merely primitive fantasy. The continental crust used to rise up in a wave shape, leaving mountains, rivers, and greenstones from inner Earth in its path. How else are the ancients supposed to tell us, besides stories, universal descriptions, associated minerals, and topographic textures? Something with a wave shape brought those stones to the surface. And that's why the indigenous use them so ubiquitously in dedications to that serpent.
Did you know that a mysterious stranger once built a monument with secret messages about the end of the world? In 1980, someone calling himself R.C. Christian paid to build a huge granite structure in rural Georgia. The Georgia Guidestones stood 19 feet tall and contained 10 strange rules written in 8 different languages. These weren't normal guidelines though. They talked about keeping the world's population under 500 million people and controlling who could have babies. The monument was perfectly aligned with the stars and moon, requiring incredible engineering skills that suggested the builder had advanced knowledge. For over 40 years, nobody could figure out who R.C. Christian really was. The FBI investigated. Conspiracy theorists created wild theories about secret societies planning to control the world, but the mystery remained unsolved. Then in 2022, someone bombed the monument and destroyed it completely. When workers found the buried time capsule underneath, it was completely empty. To this day, we still don't know who wanted to guide humanity's future or why they chose Georgia for their cryptic warning.
New World Order.
King Charles traces his genealogy through the Hanover bloodlines in part back to Vlad the Impaler, who is the individual that Dracula is named after, for a dragon, and son of a dragon with the A on the end, as a patriarchal bloodline versus the matriarchal bloodline. And he's on record for saying that, and the bloodline of Vlad the Impaler goes back to the Agrathi Scythian tribe started by Hercules, a giant offspring of Zeus and Alcmene. So they keep these genealogies back to the beginning because the purer that bloodline is, or how it's been ennobled by intermarrying into those bloodlines to enhance it, will be where they fit in the overall hierarchy of the visible ones that we understand as those ruling the earth, that were given their power by these patriarchal or matriarchal god and goddesses with the divine right to rule. So when King Charles swore an oath using a King James Version Bible, he's not swearing that oath to the God of the Bible. He is swearing an oath to a specific patriarchal God.
How do you know that for sure, though, that he's not? I mean, I know it seems pretty obvious to me.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't really say that, but what I mean is,
so
like,
I love this lady. She's so proper.
How do you know he's definitely not doing it to Jesus? Just for those people that don't seem to understand.
He could, but he is like the...
Good question.
The front of the whole polytheist hegemony and everything that they run, which is they're part of the New World Order. So if we look at the rituals in terms of the crowning, you have when Queen Elizabeth died, he becomes king, and it's a private crowning. And then you have, usually in June in the royal tradition, that you'll have this official grand pageantry wedding, which is again what happens with King Charles. And this is not a British ritual. This is not a new ritual. This is a ritual that goes right back to all of the kings before the flood and after the flood, and they're crowned in the same way. So it's part of this ancient polytheist ritual of giants. So can we honestly say 100% without doubt that he didn't swear his allegiance to God of the Bible and Jesus? No, we can't. But everything he's doing is a polytheist ritual in that crowning, and swearing an oath that we're instructed not to do in the Bible.
Right.
Without Jacob's pillow, it was all but a show.
In the Book of Enoch, one of the oldest texts ever written, and deliberately removed from the biblical canon, there is a list of knowledge that was never supposed to exist on earth. The Watchers, the angels who descended from heaven and took human wives, did not just corrupt humanity through their offspring. They taught us things, specific things, knowledge that God considered too dangerous, that its transmission became one of the primary charges against them at the divine trial. Azazel taught men how to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. He taught women the art of beautification, the coloring of eyelids, the use of precious stones, all the costly materials of the earth. The charge against him was that he had revealed the eternal secrets that were preserved in heaven. Simyaza taught enchantments and cutting off roots. Armaros taught the resolving of enchantments. Arakiel taught astrology. Okabiel taught the constellations. Ezekiel taught the knowledge of the clouds. Arakiel taught the science of the earth. Kamsiel taught the science of the sun. Tariel taught the course of the moon. Read that list carefully. Metallurgy, cosmetics, astrology, herbalism, weather reading, astronomical navigation. These are foundations of every human civilization that has ever existed. The arts, the sciences, the magical traditions, the technological capacity that separates humanity from every other species on Earth. According to the Book of Enoch, all of it came from beings who were punished for giving it to us. The implication what our boards sitting with. This knowledge was considered stolen. Humanity was never supposed to have it. And every civilization we have built, every discovery we have made, every spiritual tradition we have developed exists because someone broke a cosmic law to hand it to us. Prometheus in Greek mythology stole fire from the gods and was eternally punished for it. Zazel gave humanity knowledge of weapons and beauty and was bound hand and foot and thrown into darkness until Judgment Day. Same story, just two different traditions. What do you think they didn't want us to know?
Shout out to Enoch.
The sins of the father will be repeated upon the different generations following. Can people who dabble in the occult and open some gateways and stuff
You know what? I believe this.
like that give these entities permission to follow their bloodline then?
It's a lot more intentional than that, because we're talking about military, high-ranking military. We're talking about secret societies. We're talking about Freemasonry. So we're talking about people who have pledged oaths over their bloodlines. And because the progeny of these people are recruited in every generation, the oath in every generation is repledged. These are more people whose great-great-grandpa, was the 33-degree Mason or something like that.
And the revolution is on, but the revolution will not be televised. Gil Scott-Heron. Great song. The TV people won't be telling you what's happening in Iran, Israel and Palestine, or Africa all over the place. You're lucky if you get the real stuff that's happening in your feed. And the rich and the elite are starting to realize that all the money that they have is never going to give them happiness. People trafficking and organ harvesting and rape and murder and adrenochrome and all sorts of disgusting vile things, it's all being exposed. This is the apocalypse. And the tree of life and the knowledge thereof, electromagnetism, is what will help us to stay consciously expanded. Because ultimately what you will take from everything you know and learn and practice into the next world is what you have with you. It's your currency. It's your value in terms of knowledge, which turns into consciousness, accurate knowledge. Sat Chit Ananda. Chit is consciousness.
What?
Consciousness and bliss. That is our nature. Outside of that, it's not our nature. The revolution will not be televised. Yes, the revolution will not be televised.
First child to their coven, and people would rape these women and they would have more babies and do this stuff. So let's just erect monuments for Baal, right? And they're making it seem as if, well, because ISIS destroyed the monument of Baal over in Syria, it only makes sense to build more of these temples and put them all around the world, especially in New York City. Can't put a statue of Jesus Christ there. Can't put the 10 Commandments out anywhere, but we could put this statue that represents human child sacrifice. But the sheep continue to sleep and they continue to criticize Christians or followers of Jesus Christ, but we allow these things to occur. Now, what's interesting about it is the date that this is supposed to occur is
I heard you can even pray in the classroom in America. Is that true? Drop a comment.
April 19th. Whatever the case may be, Waco is a well-known event in the United States of America where our own government attacked innocent civilians and murdered them, including children. You have the Oklahoma City bombings also occurring on the 19th. Then on April 20th, which is a part of the 13-day festival, you had the Columbine shooting. On the 16th, which is a few days before, you had the Virginia Tech massacre as well on the 16th as the Boston marathons. So you see the pattern here of a lot of these events that are occurring right around this time, this festival in April, and which leads up to the celebration of Beltane, where they run around naked in the woods. I would post photos of it, but I couldn't find any without people topless. They paint their bodies red. Women, a lot of women naked, painted with their bodies painted up red, running around with torches. If you actually want to see it, you can Google search it. I was going to spare everybody from having to look at that. Men running around naked holding torches. It is a giant orgy for the most part.
Ooh.
It starts on the 30th at night at sundown, runs into sunrise on May 1st, also known as May Day. And that is the the Beltane, the occult.
Is this true, folks? This is what happened in America right now? Let me know in the comment, please.
Holy Day, which also celebrates the rebirth of Baal.
These are men of the Illuminati. They are Jewish. They have been using the United States as their proxy because for many years they have sought to gain control of the United States because even today, this is what is called the last great superpower on earth. To get their way, they must control the United States. With the United States, then the United Nations.
I don't think this is the real Jewish. I think the real Jewish is God-fearing people.
And all of the rest of the nations of the world, including, of course, the European community, will come under their sway. I believe the Jewish ADL or the B'nai B'rith, this Jewish Masonic Lodge, my opinion is they control the FBI. Remember, the founder of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, was a 33rd degree Freemason. Pike is probably known as by the Masons as their greatest hero in history. He was, by the way, a Confederate Civil War general. Pike wrote a letter to Mazzini, his Italian and European counterpart, and Mason and Illuminist. And he said, our goal is a series of 3 great wars, world wars. 2 will be fought in Europe. The 3rd and final war will be fought over the Middle East.
We still don't know exactly what all was found in Jeffrey Epstein's safe. So this is a photo from the investigation at Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan house.
I know. Videos of men with kids, maybe even murders.
And as you can see, investigators drilled into his safe. What was inside was compelling. So to me, I believe these are binders of CD discs. Because if you take a look up here, these aren't full page inserts that are in the binders. They honestly appear to be the size of CDs. You could probably have 2 CDs per page, front and back. And if you actually look here, you can see some loose CDs that were found in the safe. I mean, they look to be about the exact size of those sleeves, so I'm sure that these were full of data and other things. Now, also in the safe, there appear to be purses. This was like a coin purse, and then multiple passports. And up top, you can see cell phones right here. So I believe that these passports are claimed to have belonged to some of the women that were staying with Epstein. And I think that's what they're claiming the phones, were as well. These were some of the women that were with Epstein. But, I mean, that doesn't really make sense. They technically could just say anything. In my opinion, it would make more sense for these to be Epstein's passports because we've seen in the past in documents released by the government that Epstein had multiple passports. We've even seen images of his multiple passports, so we know that they exist. And these are just photos that were taken of the safe. Obviously, Epstein's people were given an advance warning that the feds were closing in on him, so they could have removed anything incriminating, and they did in some of his properties. And I've never seen any information on the things that were found inside of these binders or on these discs. So there are still so many unanswered questions in the Epstein case. And the thing that just sucks, that gets me angry, is that evidence like this has been going missing for years. I mean, this was back in 2019. It's 2026. That was 7 years ago this year that all this stuff was going down. And investigators, FBI, whoever's in on this whole scheme, they've had 7 years up until this point to really go through everything, comb through everything, delete and shred and destroy any evidence that might paint a bigger picture when it comes to Epstein. But as you guys know, I'm going to keep on this story. Thank you for listening. And let me know your thoughts in the comments and follow along for more.
Calamity, undersea volcano that would erupt near Japan. And this would be, it gives astrological placements of the planets. That is when the sun, moon, and Jupiter are in Cancer on a no moon night, Amavasya, and which I saw to be August 12th. So that's the ballpark. It's not exact, but that's the ballpark around which this would happen. It also mentioned these artificial planets around the Earth, which are satellites. It will use those, and it will tell its scientists to artificially trigger or magnify a volcano. This will affect America, but it will affect Japan the most as well. This would include toxic gas. And this is something that that I want to warn people to be prepared for, whether if you want to get, just some mask or something, or know how to seal your doors and windows in case it becomes very bad.
So if there's a lot of negativity in the collective, then it has to be balanced, and the positivity has to rise. The light has to rise. The consciousness has to rise. The role of people coming together, the communities, is very significant right now. There is certain magic happens when positive-minded people come together.
Things will get worse and more intense from April 1st, and planned the yajna coincidentally from April 1st. There's a group of people praying. You join with your intention in whatever way you can. Spread the word.
Look. Is that the same day that we lose our gravity for 7 minutes?
Did you know that language was given to us by a trickster god? So Thoth, the Egyptian god of magic, healing, and language, was also a god of trickery. In fact, Plato and Derrida specifically use the word pharmakon in their retelling of a myth of Thoth to describe the invention of writing and language. Now, pharmakon is the same place we get the word pharmacy from, and it means something very interesting. It describes something that is both a medicine and a poison. Now, the Greeks' analog for Thoth was Hermes, but it's still the same myth. So when Plato and Derrida do this retelling of the myth, they both express different things. So Plato believes that spoken language is the best form of language, while Derrida posits that it's actually written language, which is the best form of language. But in both of them, we're getting it from a trickster god. So what do you think? Do you think that language is trickery? And what's the best version of it? Is it the written word or is it the spoken word?
I know. Sign language is the best.
There are forces of good that could carry us to heights we can't even begin to imagine. And then there are other dark forces at work. There are potentials for another pathway. We are literally at the crossroads right now, I believe. Not only for the history of civilization, but the history of human species on Earth. And it's going to come down to what really just a few of us, I think, are doing. But we can tip the scales, I think, towards progression and evolution rather than de-evolution. Plato has given us lessons, and a lot of the other traditions have as well. And they've pointed our way into a future that we can only just begin to imagine the potential of what we could be and where we could be at a century from now. And it's up to us who are alive on the earth now to make sure that this happens.
Interdimensional beings. If you know, you know.
What's disgusting about this is you see these kids just staring, just gazing mindlessly at this. Satan loves attacking children because children are at the heart of God.
That's right.
So we rebuke that in Jesus' name. We ask that everyone that would come in this room
Let's go rebuke
would
this.
come into repentance. They would have an encounter with
In
the living
Jesus'
God
name.
and see that this is fake, this is phony. And Satan has no power. Jesus very clearly says, don't hinder the children from coming to me. So everything you're seeing in the Satanic Temple here, you're seeing the abortion little statue over there. You're seeing the children over here. Jesus loves the children, and so does Satan.
Man.
Jesus loves them to rescue them. Satan loves them to confuse them.
Mm.
So if they tell you that, oh, we're not going after the children, look at their monuments, look at their statues, look at the eyes of this girl up here.
You got it, bro.
Demonized smile on Baphomet.
Satan hates everything Yahweh loves. Remember that.
The Mayan calendar predicted that 2026 would be a crossroads moment for the entire world. But in what way? The world is headed towards war for the sake of religious supremacy. The JCI faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, have shown that they are more than willing to destroy the planet and all peoples just to assert their supremacy and that they are God's chosen people. The Mayan prediction is that before major destruction happens, humanity will ask itself the question, is it worth killing each other and our only planet in order to bring back an alleged Messiah? And for whom is this Messiah for? What do you think? Follow for more decolonized spirituality.
There's nothing wrong with these Abrahamic books, the Quran, the Bible, the Torah. These are holy books. It's the religions.
Do you think these people are trying to play out prophecy?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, they're using the Holy Scriptures as their playbook, inverted, so that the people who they've got captive in their churches, they think that it's God doing all of this.
Right.
Right? So they go along with it. And the pedophile priests, because they're all pedophiles and rapists and murderers and blood drinkers, do you think those priests just sit there and smile and they're real Christians? No, they're looking at the little children like, bring the children to us. So we fiddle with them and rape them. That's all they are. They're all filthy dogs. Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Baptists, they're all thugs. They're all pigs. They're all ugly. They're all ugly. All of them. All of them. All of these churchgoers that go to the Jehovah's Witnesses, there's not one good-looking one.
Mm-hmm.
There's not one Christian in them at all. The true Christians are the pagans.
If you go down to Panama, for example, there's a whole Indian tribe down there known as the White Indians of Darien. And they're called the White Indians of Darien because they have European features. They have white skin and blue eyes. That didn't just happen by accident. It came from Templars who had made their way down into that region and crossbred genetically with these tribes down there. So they had to adapt to the countries and the cultures in which they lived. Many of them even went back into the Holy Land and just converted to Islam and joined Sufi orders and traditions. And also many of them sailed over into the New World, to the Americas, and blended in with native traditions. They just had to adapt in different ways.
The Leviathan is not just a creature of the sea. It is the embodiment of chaos, a force so massive that even the ocean feels small around it. The Leviathan dwells within the deep, vast oceans, representing the untouchable depths, places humans can't control, sometimes associated with primordial waters at the beginning of creation. Where the ocean becomes unknowable, that's where the Leviathan lives. Descriptions of the Leviathan vary, though all of them agree that it's massive and terrifying, as Leviathan is a gigantic serpent-like sea creature or dragon, absolutely covered in impenetrable scales like armor, having rows of sharp teeth, sometimes described as breathing fire or smoke, and it moves through the water like it owns it. The Leviathan might also be multi-headed. Some say it has 2 heads, others say it has as much as 7 heads. This isn't just an animal, it's something beyond nature. The Leviathan comes from Christian lore, described in the Book of Job as a creature created by God, one that humans cannot control or defeat, serving as a reminder of human limitation. Later traditions connected to evil or end times imagery, less about story and more about meaning. The Leviathan is there along the behemoth to show that there are forces that only God can command. The Leviathan possesses immense size and strength, near impenetrable scales, intimidation beyond comprehension, and sometimes described with fire breathing. Nothing in the natural world compares to it, and it can't be defeated or controlled by humans. Only God has authority over it. In modern media, the Leviathan is depicted in the Final Fantasy series, the TV show Supernatural, as well as Subnautica. Leviathan isn't just something in the ocean. It's a reminder that not everything in creation was meant to be controlled. If you want to learn about more ancient sea monsters, follow for more, and comment what ancient entities or beings you want me to share next.
I'm saying these things out of love for my fellow humans. The shot is not medicine. It is an intra-body nano network administered through. What they're finding in people are not blood clots. It is self-assembling, self-replicating nanotechnology. Lipid nanoparticles that have been modified on a molecular level, wrapped in pegylation, polyethylene glycol, one of the components that can be used to make hydrogel. The lipid particles are modified to be more sensitive to heat and frequency.
This is good.
When placed in the human body, they become excited from the heat. In that excitement, they vibrate. With that excitement, magnetofection is created, and the particles slowly drift towards each other. Hence, self-assembly. This intra-body nano network is the first step to make the human body a device linked into the Internet of Bodies. The shot also changes human DNA, rendering the person a GMO owned by a corporation. This allows for the system to freely harvest psychological, biological, genetic, and physiological data from the individual without their knowledge or permission. They are now products owned by the corporation that gave them the Pope. At the top of all of those corporations is BlackRock and Vanguard. Information is now the new gold, and it will be the foundation for the new financial system coming, the CBDC. The next step is a quantum dot tattoo that will slowly release quantum microdots, chips, into the human body, individualizing and authenticating all data for each individual. This is part of a transhuman agenda being initiated upon the population without their knowledge by global elitists working primarily through the WEF, the WHO, the IMF, and other global control systems that are not any part of one government. This technology will link every human being into the Internet of Bodies. It is the foundation for a global CBDC that will be controlled with quantum systems. This technology has the capacity to fully surveil and control every individual.
My goodness. My goodness. I plead the blood of Jesus Christ all over my brothers and sisters in Christ. Say amen in the comment.
What's up, y'all? You ain't gonna want to miss this one. This was sent to me by a follower, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. My grandfather, Joachim, was born in 1889 and lived until
Your grandfather, his name is Joachim? Okay, bro.
1984. I was just an 11-year-old boy when he left. He was a fisherman all his life, and he loved to tell stories that, while incredible, he swore were always true. He used to say that he preferred to fish at dawn, because that was when the fish emerged to the surface to bite. He'd tie his fishing net at one end of the river and throw his line just as the fog would start to dissipate. In those days, it was common to catch huge fish without much difficulty. He always came back with his basket full. My grandfather was a curious man by nature. He said that he had been going to that river since he was just 10 years old. And almost every time, early on in the morning, he would notice some strange movements on the riverbanks on the opposite side from where he always fished. According to him, no other town occupied the area, so it didn't make sense as to who these people were. They'd show up without fail at 5 a.m. every time. he'd see them seemingly humanoid figures entering to the water, and he always found this very peculiar. So to find out who they were, one morning he got in his canoe, but instead of going directly to the shore where they used to go, he decided to travel further upstream and across the river to get a good look at who these people were. Once on the mainland, he hid his canoe among the vegetation and snuck over where he'd lay in the tall grass and hide out about 28 meters away from where he'd see those people. The next morning, like clockwork, at the crack of dawn, they showed up. But what he had witnessed left him without breath. I saw several groups, entire families, but they were not human. They had an upright body, they walked on two legs like us, but their skin was scaly, resembling dry leather. Their faces were similar to that of a crocodile, albeit with shorter snouts. The smaller ones moved on all four legs, gliding with agility between water and land. They did not speak, but communicated with signs. At first I thought they were people in disguise, or they were carrying dead caimans on their shoulders. But no, they were alligators. He said the most shocking moment was when everyone went into the river, except one who remained seated on the bank in a fully human-seated position. But his appearance was unmistakably reptilian. My grandmother said that it took him more than 10 minutes to move back, as fear paralyzed him, and he feared making noise. Since he was so far from the farmhouse, and it had gotten too late, he decided that night not to return home, and stayed and slept at the foot of a large tree near his usual fishing spot. My grandmother said that after that day, my grandfather fell seriously ill. Nobody knew what caused him to do so, but we always suspect that it was related to what he had witnessed. But eventually he did get better, and he lived until he was 95 years old. And until his last day, he repeated with conviction that those beings still lived there, the primitive forests of Brazil in the Amazon.
Are you f***ing with me, Joaquin's grandson? Oh, by the way, my dad died at 93 years old.
In the day-to-day with Bob, have you ever talked about any other UAP encounters like the Nimitz incident or the Travis Walton or things like that? And has Bob ever mentioned something to you that kind of blew your mind about one of those other stories, that maybe something with the science of it, or just anything that maybe you could share that was you thought was just fascinating?
I mean, for me, the case that was closest to my heart, because I'd been so involved, was the aerial case in Zimbabwe. A craft landed, beings came out. These kids were playing in a playground at a primary school, and these two beings came up to kids and telepathically somehow communicated all these messages and images to the kids. Bob was not familiar with the aerial incident, so I told him all about it. The kids felt something. It was like a feeling when these beings were there. It was like, it's as if time had stopped, and it's almost like they were in a heat wave bubble, where everything was kind of like, in a heat wave, it does this. So imagine that kind of in a bubble type of feel. And they felt it. And I'll never forget, Lazar had said to me, when the craft lifts off the ground, there's a very subtle heat effect under it, visible, but it's not, he said, it's not exactly.
Okay. Were you there with Lazar, or Lazar was telling you this story?
Like heat effect, but similar to it. And that's what the girls said. It's like kind of like a heat effect, but they felt it. The kids felt it. I'll never forget. He said, they felt it. Wow. He says, we never felt it. And you could tell his interest in the fact that he said they felt it, we didn't.
Wow.
And that was something that I found to be interesting, because here he was with the equipment and they're testing it, but there's no aliens there. And the kids had the effect because the creatures were there. I call them aliens, whatever they are, but the creatures were there. It's interesting.
Because over and over, especially in the Old Testament, we see the mention of these false gods. We see the god Baal. And we realize in the New Testament, Jesus comes right out and says that Baal is one and the same with Satan. Mm-hmm. In the book of Revelation, we find that the Apostle John says that Zeus is one and the same with Satan when he talks about the church at Pergamos and the seat of Satan. Well, at Pergamos was the largest altar.
John said Zeus in the book of John.
To Baal in the ancient Near East. So we see that Baal is equal to Satan, that Zeus is equal to Satan, and we know that Zeus is also equal to Jupiter in Roman mythology, and we can keep going because a lot of these gods are the same.
History that's never been spoken of. When you look at all this and put it together, that there was an ancient civilization that was very advanced, that could build in giant megalithic stones. This is more of the untold history, not only of Antarctica, but in this case, southern Patagonia, which is the closest land continent to Antarctica.
Aren't there maps that are 1,000 years old that are perfect that we didn't have the ability to map out until recently?
This is the German direction for the U-boat, and you can see clearly the word Agartha, that the end goal was this high civilization under the ice that they identified was close to the South Pole. So they had to go literally hundreds of miles under the ice to get there. The Annunaki Society, which was tasked to collect all the artifacts in the world, certainly they knew about this Piri Reis map, which was drawn in the year 1513. I mean, I guess if we're talking about Tartaria and ancient civilizations, they also had a knowledge of the geography of the planet before it was covered in ice. The only conclusion is there were civilizations much older that came and went.
Maybe humanity, maybe our whole existence isn't quite what we think it is.
Deeper than anyone can possibly imagine. So the engineers come from the sky. They seed life on Earth and then return. And then at some point, they decide that humanity needs to be erased. Now, before I continue, I highly recommend you to read the book of Enoch and come right back to this video.
Shout out to Enoch.
You just finished the book of Enoch. Good. Proud of you. So in the book, as you all should have just read, a group called the Watchers descend to Earth. And in Mesopotamia myth, they're linked to what they called the Anunnaki. What's up, Joe Rogan? Sky gods who interact with humanity. The Watchers do three things. They descend, they give forbidden knowledge, and they corrupt creation. They teach humans metallurgy, warfare, cosmetics, magic, knowledge before humanity is spiritually ready. Sound familiar? In Prometheus, the engineers give us DNA. They give us the spark of life. But they also create this black liquid that this dude's about to drink. It's a substance that mutates, destroys, and creates monsters. Creation and corruption come from the same source. In Enoch, the Watchers create the
Man, I'm gonna have to see Prometheus again.
Nephilim, hybrid giants born from heaven and earth. These beings destabilize the world, and judgment follows. And in Prometheus, human contact with the engineer DNA creates the Deacon, a hybrid proto-xenomorph lineage. Again, heaven and humanity equals destabilized creation. The key idea, my fellow viewers, is this. They're not gods. They're powerful beings inside the whole of creation, just like the Watchers in the book of Enoch. They descend, they interfere, and they leave chaos behind. This, Prometheus, is one of the oldest stories in the book. Angels who were never supposed to come down and start something new.
I see the connection, for real.
What is your favorite line in Prometheus? Drop your comments down below. And don't forget to follow, like, share, and favorite for more deep dives into the Watchers from Prometheus created all of us.
All right. Connect this dot. Engineers, Watchers, fallen angels, demons. I might get it wrong, but let me know in the comment.
Can trees eat people? I believe absolutely they can. I know it sounds crazy, but trees are living entities. They have spirits. And like all spirits, they can be good or they can be evil. Now, I heard the story out of West Virginia, and it's scary because this kind of reminds me of that guy, Nate Petrowski. Now, there was this guy who lived in West Virginia, and he owned, a bunch of acreage. And he said, when he would go out and look at his acreage, there was this one tree, and it was this really old willow tree. And he said he didn't know why, but for some reason, every time he walked by this tree, it just gave him the creeps. And,
it does give me the creep right now.
It'd be a very calm day, no wind, but yet he'd see the branches just moving and swaying, almost as if this tree was moving. And he'd get the feeling like he was being watched. And his dogs, for some reason, would not go near this tree. And he started having these dreams where he would see this specific tree, and it would grow legs and arms, and it would have teeth, and it would start chasing him, and eventually it would eat him. And this, went on for a while. Until one day, he said, that tree is creepy. I don't know why I have it on my land. I want to get rid of it. So he grabs a chainsaw, and he's going to go and cut this tree down. Well, that was the last time anyone had seen him. Now, he'd been telling his friends about these dreams that he had had. And so when they first got there and he was missing, they were looking for him on his land. They decided, let's go out to that willow tree. And when they get to the tree, they don't find him.
Really? Why should we believe that there's going to be a third temple on the Temple Mount? Let me give you a couple of passages. The prophet Daniel, 550 BC, tells us that a person will negotiate a peace agreement between Israel and surrounding nations, and he shall make a strong covenant with many for 1 week, a period of 7 years, and for half of the week he shall put an end to sacrifice and offering. There has to be a temple there. Now, what about the Syrian king Antiochus Epiphanes? He desecrated the temple in 168 BC. That's not history, that's a preview. Consider what Jesus said at 33 AD, just before he died and rose again. The Lord Jesus refers to this as a future event. He said this, Matthew chapter 24, beginning with verse 15. So when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place, the temple, let the reader beware. The apostle Paul refers to this as a future event, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Paul said, let no one deceive you in any way. That day will not come unless the rebellion comes first. And the man of lawlessness, the Antichrist, is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, the temple, proclaiming himself to be God. This is a reference to the Antichrist who will enter the rebuilt temple and proclaim himself to be God. God has told us the future, and the future includes a third temple.
Woo! Hey, we Christians, we will not go to worship in a temple. Do you know why? Because we are the temple of God.
Okay, so satanic ritual abuse is when usually it's a family member, like a parent or a grandparent. Usually it's not the parent, but a relative who takes the child and performs a ritual abuse, like a rape on a baby, which involves blood, and they consecrate the child to the devil. Why would you do that? Because it gives them great power. The devil asks for payment. What are you going to give me? I want one of you, the kids. And so they do. And they don't have to actually murder them, although sometimes there are SRA victims who are killed. Halloween is the #1 time of year for the most human sacrifice to the devil on the planet. People go, that's ridiculous. Halloween's just about candy. It's not. In fact, in New York City, Father Labar was telling me that it's the #1 week leading up to Halloween where the most homeless go missing. There's these unmarked vans that come around and offer to take them to shelters and get meals for them, and they just bind them and they keep them and they satanically sacrifice them on Halloween. Who does this? These are people in occults. they keep hidden. I mean, obviously, if they were mainstream, that would be a bigger problem. But if that day comes, then I'm going underground.
Yeah. One thing I will tell you as an absolute fact, the technology of what came to be called resurrection or human transformation or transmutation, transfiguration, all words that just simply mean metamorphosis or to change of form, are transmutation into a celestial being, star walkers, as I call them, is at the center of the science of ancient Egypt. And the gods gifted this to humanity. And absolutely everything, every single temple, every single scrap of papyrus, every temple image is relative to this concept right here. But it's not talked about. We talk about the stones and bones. How did they lift that 80-ton block of stone? How did they do this? How did they do that? Why did they do that?
Ancient Egypt wasn't just architecture, it was encoded knowledge.
The original war that we are still in is not even dark versus light. It's actually the demiurge going at your consciousness. Do you understand the weight it carries when you see these messages on a non-stop basis entering your consciousness about attacks, about this country will fall, about they will invade here?
It's not fear-mongering. It's not fear-mongering, but you have to be smart.
Horrible group of people attacking innocent land, attacking innocent people, trying to take over more and more land. It's symbolic of what? Them wanting to take over the essence of your vast self, the consciousness, the spirit. That's what they want, your energy. That happens through your belief, through the collective consciousness falling into this trance of the false projections of the dark world. Let me ask you something. How many of you have actually witnessed the things that you're seeing? I'm not saying none of these things are happening. However, it's upon us at a certain point for the collective consciousness to shift the perception and awareness into a more mature, evolved, ascended state to where you're going to know that all of this appears within your true self, where even your body is showing up. And this is the true premise and purpose of a spiritual awakening. And this is what those dark forces, those demented entities, do all they can to stop you from. If only y'all knew how much energy they have taken from humanity. They store it in so many places, not just underground, but so many different places parallel to this planet. And this lower demented force or group, they're going to do all they can to keep squeezing out as much energy as possible. It comes through your belief, fear, and when you allow yourself to believe in the identity
That's right.
that entity has claimed on your behalf. They forced it on you for a reason all of these years. Every time that happens, you're engaging and plugging into the system and more light is stripped and they're storing it. So you have to actually step out of it and allow yourself to be one with the source again. If you want help awakening your consciousness, you can contact me for a one-on-one session through radenlightenment@gmail.com, or you can message me on here.
Okay. I mean, he got a point over there, but I have two words: manufacturer consent. And plus, I have the holy, and plus, I have discernment, I have the Holy Spirit.